If there's one thing we've learned from horror movies, it's that nothing good ever happens in the basements of abandoned farms. But there was Lily, tied to a pillar, waking up to a man who clearly had no good intentions. She begged for her life and her boyfriend's, offering money as if she were at an auction. But the guy didn't want money. That's right, he was one of those villains who prefer satanic sacrifices over a fat bank account. He took Lily to another room, tied her to a chair, and placed her unconscious boyfriend right in front of her. Then comes the plot twist. He planned to offer the poor guy's body to an evil spirit named Santana, which inhabited a demonic doll. Basically, it was one of those, if this were happening to me, I would have passed out already moments. The ritual began. The villain recited some eerie verses, and Lily's boyfriend got the worst of it. In true final girl style, she managed to escape, but guess what? Santana went after her and brought her back. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, we meet Jo Brooks and her fearless team of documentarians. She receives a mysterious letter, because there always has to be a letter, from a guy named Julian Michael, inviting them to a private island called Ludunis. The place is rumored to be cursed, but for a group of filmmakers looking to go viral on YouTube, that's an irresistible lure. The team discusses money, but like in every horror movie, budget is never a problem when the script needs them to make a dumb decision. So, with their bags packed, they set off for the island, chasing their big discovery. Upon arriving at the port, they try to convince a captain to take them, but everyone says no, just as any sensible person would. Eventually, they find a captain who agrees, but only for a truckload of money. The team accepts. When they arrive on the island, the first impression is good. Lush forests, mild weather, it almost looks like an Airbnb destination. But as they venture further, they notice the place is decorated with creepy dolls hanging from the trees. Instead of running to the nearest boat, they find this fantastic. The captain drops them off and makes one last request. More money for the return trip. Jo doesn't like it, but she pays. What she doesn't know is that the captain is about to meet Santana. And, well, let's just say he won't be the one sailing back. The team decides to film the documentary's introduction right then and there. Jo tells Julian's story. He believes his daughter's spirit is trapped on the island and has filled the place with dolls to honor her memory. One of the cameramen, who has a phobia of dolls, who wouldn't, swears he saw them move, but the team completely ignores him. Shortly after, they find a cabin and, breaking all survival rules, walk in as if they were tourists on a guided tour. The place seems normal, and they convince themselves the story is overblown. Until, of course, they find a suspicious doll, and Julian finally appears. Julian invites them to a bonfire, because nothing beats roasting marshmallows while talking about restless spirits. He reveals that his daughter isn't actually dead and that her spirit is still around. The group pretends to be interested, but they're clearly torn between, this is a brilliant marketing stunt, and are we going to survive? Julian offers them his house for the night, but they decline because they need more footage. Right? Nothing wrong with exploring a haunted island in the middle of the night. A fun fact about this film. On set, the actors reported several strange occurrences, including dolls moving on their own and lights flickering for no reason. Was this a coincidence or genius marketing? It's definitely a marketing stunt. Now, a question for you. If you were in the documentary team's place, would you stay on the island after seeing the dolls or run to the first boat? And remember, if a stranger invites you to a cursed island, maybe leave that adventure to Indiana Jones. Huey, the cameraman, and Sadie, the sound manager, think it's the best idea ever to spend the night in the basement of a haunted house. Great choice, champs. Meanwhile, Veronica and Tori decide to take a walk around the island, while Jo and Michael go to sleep so they can film the next day. But the couple in the basement hears strange giggles and assumes it's their friends playing a prank. Spoiler, it's not. Santana appears out of nowhere and turns Huey into human sushi. Sadie? Well, she's about to have the worst night of her life. Meanwhile, Tori and Veronica are arguing about dolls. Yes, dolls, until Veronica gets fed up and leaves Tori alone. On the other side of the island, Jo can't sleep because she's freezing, because nobody thought to bring a blanket, of course, and decides to ask Julian for one. Walking through the fields, she doesn't even notice that Santana is watching her. When she arrives at Julian's house, she finds him, and they start talking. When Jo asks about his daughter, she discovers there was another sister involved. Julian suddenly explodes in anger, then apologizes. Suspicious. Gives Jo a blanket and sends her away. Back at camp, Jo has a not-so-subtle nightmare that Santana is going to kill her. Red alert. Morning comes, and nobody knows where Huey and Sadie are. Michael, being super professional, decides that work comes before missing people. But Joe insists and decides to look for them with Veronica, while Michael and Tori go interview Julian. When they arrive at his house, they find the door locked. Meanwhile, Julian is in the forest, staring at a doll with a sinister smile. Michael enters and finds suspicious photos. And who's in them? That's right, Tori. Plot twist. This trip was all planned by her. Before Michael can say anything, Tori knocks him out with a wooden plank. Game over for him. Julian appears and praises his little girl as if they're playing a cooperative horror game. Joe and Veronica keep searching for their friends when they come face to face with Santana. Veronica thinks it's a joke, while Joe is one step away from peeing her pants. Santana, being all polite, invites Joe to join her and become a doll. Veronica responds rudely and throws a rock at her. Santana dodges and decides enough talking. On their way, Joe and Veronica get separated, which, as we all know, never ends well. Joe gets knocked out, and Veronica finds a mansion full of dolls. She decides it's way too creepy and runs. But then she finds Huey's body. Congratulations, you've unlocked a lifelong trauma. And to make things worse, Santana strikes her down too. The two wake up tied up in Julian's house, where they find Michael's corpse. Not the best way to start the day. Tori appears, revealing she's been part of this madness all along. Julian begins a dark ritual to transfer Santana into Joe's body, because apparently that's an upgrade for her. But when Veronica resists, and her blood mixes with Tori's, the ritual goes wrong. The chaos allows Joe to break free, kick Tori and Julian, and escape. After a chase, Joe finds a house, hides, and when Julian arrives, she finishes him off with a metal rod. But of course, Tori shows up too, and Joe takes her down as well. Santana, the villain who never gives up, appears and strangles Joe. The ritual finally works, and Santana gains a human body. Now, she just waits for more clueless tourists to visit the island and become her new dolls. Now, tell me, if you were on this island, what would be your strategy to survive? Leave your answer in the comments. I'll be reading them all. Hope you loved this video and see you next time.